Hi, my name is Alessandro Salvati, and I'm the creator of the Mega 634 and Plus, Fire&Fog, and Smoke, and Magic, and 8-bit, and Miscellanea Mega NeatWolf Pack01. I really should rename my assets, I know, to something shorter. And I decided to make this video to show you what's going on and what's coming next in the next update of the asset. I've already given a few sneak peeks of the new prefabs in the forum thread, in the community forum thread of the package, but I decided to make this video anyway for those who didn't follow it. So let's start. At first, I had more than 600 prefabs, and I expect the number of prefabs to rise of about 200%. I don't know. It depends on the inspiration. And today I'm going to show you the new and updated fire blasts, which are kind of dragon breaths, but they've got a more explosive and cone-shaped look. So let's start with the first one. This is Fire Blast 01. As you can see, it's only using 15 particles, but it still looks pretty good. It depends on the use you're going to make of it. If you're developing for mobile, it's very lightweight, and it looks pretty nice even at steep angles. And that's more or less what all the fire blasts are going to look. I decided to I chose a style which was not too cartoony yet not too realistic to meet almost everyone needs. Anyway, you're always free to swap textures with more realistic ones if you got it, or custom ones, and the effect is is already here. It just adapts to your needs. First thing to note, it's that the prefab itself it's already been improved, and as I'm improving every single prefab in the pack, one by one, yes. And another thing that I should be talking about is that the fact that I'm using leveraging on the native Unity particle scaling. So this means that just by tweaking the scale values of the transform component in the inspector, when I select the base prefab of the effect, just by tweaking them, I can change the shape of the whole prefab and make variations, as many variations you want. So it really helps customization and side scaling. Side scaling isn't really working for isn't really working too well for all prefabs. I think this is a feature, this is a problem which Unity will face as the new version come out. Anyway, for most of the prefabs, it works pretty well, and I'm going to show you. So you can see it, but I'm tweaking the values, the scale values on the expector. So now I'm tweaking the X scale, the scale. Oh, sorry. So now I'm tweaking the X value of the scale and increasing it. As you can see, the fire blast thickens, but I can also decrease it to under 1, and it's way thinner. Changing the way scale doesn't really have any visible effect here. So I'll be tweaking the Z values. As you can see, it somehow makes the prefab longer or shorter. Which I believe you can also use this at runtime to adapt an effect to different situations. For example, if I tweak the values, let's say 2, you may notice that, well, the effect is still the same, but doesn't look very good. So it only takes a second to tweak the particles emission count from 30 per second to, let's say, 120 per second. And as you can see, this is much better. And it only took a second to do it. You can really have so much freedom when tweaking them. So let's put it back to 30. Let's reset the scale values. And now I'm going to talk about one thing that I'm doing for the majority of the prefabs contained in the asset. I'm talking about the HDR variation of each prefab. It basically is the same effect, but uses different materials. These materials are using a custom shader which allows for amplified and multiplied diffuse values. For instance, this material is already using a diffuse boost of 4, which means it should be 4 times more brighter, 4 times brighter than this one. But it really is only 2 times brighter. Why is that? Because I decided to tweak all the HDR prefabs into using an alpha value for the alpha of the particles. So this is actually 2 times brighter, and if I ramp up to the full, now this is 4 times the base value. I decided to do this because you may want to tweak just one prefab, and you may want to have a little more freedom, and maybe you just don't want to touch the base material to do that. Also because touching the base material, it will affect all the prefabs which are currently using this material. So let's put it back to halfway. Nope. And let's tweak the material. So it has a diffuse boost of 4, and now I'm going to change it to 8, to 16, 32, 64, 128, and so on. You can tweak it. You can tweak all the prefabs at a time, but by simply changing the materials. These will help flames to always look good, even if even if when you're going to use HDR enabled cameras and feel that the fire isn't, well, shiny and bright as it should be, especially if you're using linear color space. And if you're using a post effect like bloom, I'm talking about physically conserving or physically realistic bloom, which take into account the real amount of brightness of the pixels of the image, instead of simply using a threshold. And this should help you achieve a better effect or a more realistic effect when using this prefab. I also should note that I'm currently targeting WebGL, the WebGL platform. So what you're seeing here isn't using the soft particle shader, or well, it's not working because it doesn't work on WebGL. Anyway, if you switch to, for example, if you target Windows or iOS, you'll see that things like flames and so on are not so heavily clamped on the base. They smoothly ramp up to the full body of the flame. So back to the fire blast. This is Fire Blast 01. And I also decided that the next update will feature another category of prefabs, which I called EX, or extended prefabs, which are somehow the console or desktop version of the prefabs I'm shipping with the asset. And they feature much many particles, way more particle systems, usually a higher spawn rate of the particles, so they are definitely heavier than the base prefab, than this one. So I'll show you what the Fire Blast 01 EX looks like, and that's it. As you can see, there's way much more detail in this. We have more than 5 particle systems working together to give you pretty realistic fire effect with all the imperfections and fire dynamics, which are typical of a flame, which is notably one of the hardest effects to pull off in a game. And you can also zoom in a bit to see how it starts and how it ends. It also looks pretty good when I'll pause it a bit. As you can see, it still looks good even when paused, and you can see it from every angle. So it's I think this is pretty nice and not still not excessively heavy on the machine. Of course, I also made it an HDR version of it, and the same things I said for the first couple to apply also for these ones, so I can tweak it and so on. These prefabs are have been built on inward space, so you can move them and the effect will follow pretty well. I can't rotate it in the editor for some reason. It rotates as a single piece, but well, when playing it doesn't work like that. I don't understand why Unity chose to make it work this way. Anyway, let's put it back. I also created another version of the flame, and it uses a new shader, an alpha eroded shader, which basically takes the base texture of the flame and erodes its contour more and more as the alpha of the particles decreases. So at the end you got this crisp, sharp looking effect. Of course I can customize it by scaling it and by increasing the particle count, and you're getting a totally different effect. It looks a bit flat because I only scale it on a single axis. Now it's should be a cone, and yeah, of course we get the X values as well to fit your needs. I'm already losing my voice, and well, it will take too much time to show you all of the prefabs as I did with the first four. At the origin, originally there were only 4 of these prefabs. So this is number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4, which is a little bit more cartoony. Number 3 features billboarding, so it can handle well also steep viewing angles like this. And since I can't possibly talk about every single prefab, I'm going to press play. And that's it. This is the X version of the second prefab, eroded version of the same prefab. This is our Fire Blast 03EX, and this is the Fireblast 04EX version of the cartoony one, which I think look pretty realistic. I don't know. Well, that's entirely up to you and the style you're using or you're going to achieve. These are kind of hour wave, which I've been adding and expanding with the EX versions as well. As you can see, they got way more particles than before. Then we have these outer waves, which are basically identical to the simple ones, but feature more particles and more effects for desktop use. And we've got about 100 of differently shaped fires or flames, which isn't even the complete array of flames the pack contains, because this is a scene that is not it's still a work in progress. So I haven't still added all the prefabs the asset contains. Anyway, the first row, so this one, is what is currently contained in the asset you find in the store, while all the flames that are on the left are the ones I added. So you've got the base version, the HDR version, the extended version, and they may look similar, but they are not. They usually feature a higher particle count and more particle systems nested in the base effect. You can see there are differently sized prefabs. They are not just rescaling. They're not just the first one you see here rescaled, but they've been rethought and built from scratch to look good, even at this size. So they are specifically made to be this so small. Also, these are new flames you're going to get with the next update. We've got also a few variations with smoke. These are the 8-bit variation of the flame, and these are afterburners, which have been added by user request. I'm going to make a full HDR version of them, probably, because you can see they still don't look so bright at the moment. Here we got fireballs, so the base fireballs, which were about 5 at the beginning, the HDR versions, the EX version, which you can't really appreciate until you zoom in a bit. As you can see, there's much more going on, and they're much more detailed. And of course, you can click the base component of the effect and simply scale it by tweaking the values. and it works on the fly, and you don't need, you're not supposed to need any external or third-party particle scaler, because, well, it just works. As I told you, this is the WebGL view of the effects, so there is a little clamping, ugly clamping effect or on the base, on the intersection with the floor plane, but this will fade away if you got soft particles on. So let's restore the situation as it was before. And now I'm going to talk a bit about the new explosions. For some reason, it's probably a Unity bug, they don't look as intended when in play mode and in scene view. So I'm going to stop the simulation, and I'm going to show them as they are intended to look, but which are pretty different. I should probably file a bug, and I just show you some. As you can see, there's much more detail than the previous explosions. Many more particles. There is a little halo, which is always nice. It doesn't need the addition of any bloom, and most of them look like particles. You can add your own debris if you want to, and I think they look way more spectacular than before. And I made a lot of variation on the same subject with without smoke, for example, and I also introduced the chain explosion or explosion chains, because not every time that a single object explodes, it does it on a single explosion, but there are realistically more than one explosion going on. So as you can see, these are, well, probably not that mobile friendly as the original prefabs I created for this pack, but you're also free to just use the core of the particle effect and disable a few elements to fill your needs. You can selectively do that, as you can see. Maybe I can remove the particles like this. Nope, like this. Oh, I removed too much. Anyway, I re-enable everything. Okay. And I think I'm going to make more of them, because I feel it's one thing that is missing in most packages. Again, the ugly clipping on the floor. But as I said, it's just requires you to change the target platform. It only looks like this if you've got soft particles disabled. And even if the effect is kinda complicated, you can still easily scale it in a second, It is 4 times bigger. And it works just nice. It only took a second. They also look pretty good, even when paused. And that's it for now. I hope you've enjoyed all the updates which are coming to the next update of the asset. Of the asset. I hope you're also already enjoying the package as it is right now. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!